And welcome to another episode of More Than Dice. I'm Gonzo, and right below me is... She can't hear me. Right below me is Miss Kathy, which you're probably used to seeing on Twitch because she streams a lot. And over in my other corner, way over there, is one of our fellow listeners, Miss Captain Mizzy. Miss Captain Mizzy is joining us today as a special guest because John couldn't make it today. So anytime we don't have someone here, we try to bring on another guest. Today's episode is going to be about what it's like to be a new gamer in the gaming world, as in gaming, podcasting, you name it. She's also learning how to play a game, how to paint miniatures, so we're going to talk about what it's like to be new in a complete hobby period. So before we do that, we need to give a shout out to our sponsors. We want to thank Metalhead Minis for selling our product. She will have that up shortly. Lynn is such a good friend of ours. We appreciate her. If you don't know her, make sure you go and search for her on Twitch because she does some Twitch streaming too. We want to thank Muse on Minis for hosting our podcast and pushing it out to everybody, because what we do live here, we record it and then put out an audio version. And we also want to thank Tectonic Craft Studios for giving us a product to give away, and he does some really cool MDF laser cutting. And then, of course, Creature Caster, one of our newest sponsors. I want to thank them a lot for putting up with us. We will be doing, and I will personally be doing, some Creature Caster painting pretty soon after Adepticon, because I have some models that need to be painted, and I said I would use their stuff to do it with. So this is episode 107, What It's Like to Be a Newbie. And before we get into this, what's everybody drinking tonight? Kathy?
I'm drinking a gin and tonic.
No.
And some water. My tea just finished steeping as well, so.
You're having a gin and tonic?
I know.
That's like a weird...
unexpected.
Shocking.
If you're in the chat, let us know what you're drinking. Also, we like to hear what everybody else is drinking. Captain Mizzy, what are you having tonight?
Rum, obviously, but I am trying a new mix with a strawberry banana juice and coconut rum in my fancy pirate cup.
Okay, Trash Aroma, that's gross. Trash Aroma's drinking hot dog water.
Trash Aroma's drinking hot dog water tonight. Hot dog water. It's best when it's tepid.
I am drinking Macallan's 12 Scotch, 12-year Scotch. Kathy, do you know if we have to do any tributes to anybody that had passed away recently?
I have not been paying attention.
Oh, you're just so fired. Why you gotta do that?
I paid attention last week. I'm spent.
You're spent. So, for everybody out there that listens to us, watches us, helps us out, you name it, we appreciate it. People that support us financially, support us by promoting us, you name it. You keep the lights on, you keep us going. Also, don't forget that Kathy streams Tuesday through Friday. From 3 to 5, painting miniatures. She's really awesome to watch, and she doesn't like when people joke on our podcast, so you have to be really careful.
Oh, ever, never ever, no jokes allowed. Nope, I have no sense of humor whatsoever.
None. So we appreciate it. So everybody out there, please be safe tonight. Please take care of yourself, and cheers.
Sláinte.
That's good.
I also have cookies.
Woo! That one kind of bit me hard. All right, let's go and switch over to the paint cam. Guys, if you're just now watching, if this is first time watching, I usually do the painting during the podcast. Kathy usually does all the talking, and so does John, but John is now being substituted by Captain Mizzy.
Wait, does that mean Captain Mizzy and I do all the talking?
Ah, there you go. While I try to paint. Tonight, I'm going to try to work on getting. I already started a little bit on my Venom for Captain Marvel. I'm going to get a little bit more on Captain America.
I
little
feel
bit
like
more.
the tongue would have been better periwinkle.
Hush, Kathy. It's my tongue. I can paint it how I want. A little bit more on Baron Zemo. A little bit more on Black Panther. And then kind of almost finish up Captain Marvel. So I'm going to get a good one going on this, because this is just going to be, for anybody that know, I'm painting everything, most of the models with contrast paints. It's going to be my thing for all my Marvel models, is to paint them up with contrast paints alone, unless I have to use something that is not a contrast paint. That they either don't have it or I know it's not going to work well. For example, like Captain Marvel's gold emblems and such around her chest. Or like my Doc Ock's
So
arms.
on Captain Marvel, you're just doing like metallic gold instead of yellow.
Correct. I want to see what a metallic gold does. I'm going to do that on her badge real quick. Excuse me. That she's got on her hip, and see how that looks first before I do a pure yellow.
Okay, you got the hiccups.
I got a hiccup out of that.
That's what every podcast needs. Some hiccups.
I just got a message from John. He's like, "Oh, now we get 47 viewers."
It's the blue hair, John.
He could join us. It's because we have a captain on deck, and Captain Madlove rated us. And so we got the pirate action going on here tonight. We got a pirate vibe. And Captain Mizzy is drinking rum.
Of course.
That would have been my second choice, as people know.
All right. So, Captain Mizzy is one of my locals and a really good friend of mine. And so recently, since she's been hanging out with me, she's been like getting in on doing painting stuff and miniatures and so on and so forth. And Captain Mizzy is also a artist herself. She just, it's not like she just, stepped off the bus. So she knows somewhat is what she's doing type thing. Mizzy, tell us about kind of your art, background or whatever.
So, pretty much I've always had an interest in art and design and whatnot. I was the high school yearbook editor, and that's when I pretty much decided that I knew that I wanted to do this for a career. And so I went to art school and honed in my awesomeness, and now I get to make pretty things 2 days a week and sell my soul at Walmart while I try to go full-time at my design job.
What kind of design work do you do at your design job?
Logos, banners, photoshopping, advertising materials, all kinds of different stuff.
Oh, so you could Photoshop me with abs, then, is what you're telling me.
Sure.
Yes. I can finally have the physique.
There's a big market among Twitch streamers for people to design emotes and stuff like that, different graphic features for their Twitch streams.
Very much. There is very much a need for that. What kind of, have you done anything besides digital artwork?
Crimson wants to know if you can Photoshop John O with green hair.
Yeah, that's pretty easy.
That's a very rookie thing. I'm sorry.
So if you can see in the background, I've got a leaf drawing. I actually did that in my advanced drawing class while I was still in school. I've got like 3 or 4 different portfolios full of drawings, charcoal. I've got some paintings I did in acrylic, just all kinds of different mediums.
Okay, so you're not completely new to the art world. What about miniature gaming?
I'm a complete and total noob, and I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm learning.
You did pick up a really cool miniature style board game just recently. What was that one?
Marvel Crisis Protocol. I'm really enjoying how everything is painting. I invested in some creature caster paints and brushes and all that good stuff while I was at Warfare Weekend. And I've painted Hulk, Red Skull, and a little bit of Black Widow. And I've got everything else primed except for Iron Man and Captain Marvel because I'm struggling.
Okay, this is very important to me that we talk about this because there is something that's going on with the. You are not well versed in putting together miniatures.
No.
You've never put it together miniatures before, and so this is something that I wanted to bring up because, as everybody knows, some of these Marvel miniatures are not easy to put together. Some of them are very delicate. Some of them are very, whatever, kind of fiddly. Give us your breakdown of the Marvel miniatures that you have put together so far.
I would say Hulk was probably the easiest because he's so big. So that was my first model I put together. Super easy. Really enjoyed it. And then I just kind of worked my way up. Iron Man was about midway through. And where I went wrong there is I put his legs together wrong.
That was the worry I had when I was putting him together. And I had to look really closely and really study the yellow render that they had in the directions in order to see what difference there was between the inside of the thigh and the outside of the thigh, so that I wouldn't do that. But yeah, I was worried that that there wouldn't be any difference, and I'd be like, oh, I don't know which one goes where.
It's like, oh, this is fine. It all looks the same. No, it's not the same.
Yeah, that subtle difference. And if I hadn't made that kind of mistake on models in years past, I might not have been as careful as I was when I was putting it together. So that could have easily happened to me too. And I imagine that's happened to a lot of other people.
That has been a kind of I don't want to say complaint, but an argument that these models, some of them are not easy to put together, especially if you're new to miniature building and painting and such. Some of these are not easy to do. The one I'm working on right now, there is a complaint on, and it is a very, I'll agree with the complaint on Venom. Venom's knuckles on this.
Oh, the knuckles on his fist. That cracked me up.
Are a separate piece.
They're a separate piece. Yeah, that cracked me up. Oh my god, I couldn't believe it.
Really, guys? The knuckles. So the front of his hand right here is a separate piece. Now, there's my finger for judging, and that's a small, tiny piece.
It's a very small, tiny piece.
And
so what I
have lost it.
For the tiny pieces when you're clipping them off the sprue, because as a lot of people here probably have found out, when you clip tiny pieces off the sprue, they sometimes tend to go flying, and then you lose them.
Yes.
Then you have to spend 20 minutes on the floor looking for them.
Take a blob of blue tack and attach it to that tiny piece before you clip it off the sprue, so that you have something to hang on to when you clip it off. And also, if it does fall on the floor, it's easy to find because it's a big blob of blue tack with your little part stuck to it now. I learned that when I was assembling Necromunda models, and there is a stub of a cigar that fits in this guy's mouth, but it's a separate piece. It's like the size of, probably smaller than one of Venom's fingers. It was ridiculous, and yeah, and so I put this blob of blue tack on there, and that saved me. Otherwise, I would have lost that thing in the carpet.
Well,
Raider says that's some Malifaux level stuff. Yes.
Very much so. Is. People have given them quite a bit of crap saying that, yeah, this is pretty much Malifaux level model put together.
It's not easy. You need to pay attention. Oh, and Crimson brings up a good point. Like, where did it go? Oh, He says, isn't there an issue with Marvel Crisis Protocol with the sprues having part numbers, but the instructions don't? And so they have PDFs posted on their website so that, I mean, you don't know, but they have, now you do because I'm telling you, they have PDFs posted on their website where they have instructions with the numbers included. So that makes it a bit easier. But not everybody goes to the Facebook group to find that out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
If it wasn't for the online PDFs, I don't think I would have figured it out as easily as I did.
Well, look, Venom's done. No.
but the inside of his mouth is so light. I keep waiting for you to stab that black in there so that you can just,
I didn't stab the black.
dry brush his teeth white.
I stabbed the red in there. Stabbed red in there. But yes, because also, like Baron Zemo's elbow pad was a separate piece.
Oh, yeah. The elbow crinkles.
Lots of explosive words were said.
Yeah, that one was... I didn't understand that.
Those I didn't understand. Well, I kind of understood it, but I didn't have problem gluing those in, thank goodness. That was not my most difficult part of the model, so...
No.
It was just wow, these are like tiny potato chips.
Yeah. So I'm getting some stuff ready to go down. And there's also like Shuri, I think is how you pronounce it. I can't remember her name. From Black
Shuri,
Panther.
the Shuri.
Gauntlets.
And it's funny, of those two ladies, and I've seen some of the people talking about this on the official Facebook page for Marvel Crisis Protocol. But so Shuri and what's the other one, John? Akuye?
I think so.
Sounds right.
Of those two, Shuri was the easier for me.
Well,
because Akuye, I had trouble lining up her fists that are wrapped around the spear. I had trouble lining her hands up with her wrists because the way the forearm glues to the upper arm, I think I had the angle wrong on that. I ended up having to take it apart, to take that lower arm and the spear off several times before I finally got it glued on right. I was using super glue on all of my Marvel models. Instead of plastic glue, I used super glue. It was fantastic. I didn't have any problem, except for that spear, I didn't have any problem with the parts not just sticking within seconds.
Yeah, I didn't have any problems with the sticking when I was gluing together. The only thing I really had an issue with is the fiddly bits. I mean, Captain Marvel, her arms, they're just so super, super tiny. And I get that she is a tiny model, but man, these were super, super fiddly. I don't even think you finished yours yet.
That's how you get the amazing detail. That's the sacrifice. If you want the amazing detail, they have to be in more pieces. Otherwise, people are going to complain that they're big and clumsy and cartoony, and they lack detail.
Yeah. So
there's a trade-off.
There is. I don't understand. Like, some of the things I don't understand.
Hey, Randall.
Is, of course, Venom's knuckles. I don't understand that one. I don't understand the elbow pad. That just doesn't, that doesn't resonate with me. And I've been doing miniatures for, 30 plus years type thing. And I don't understand that. So
it's all about the details. You either have a stupid amount of details, or you have, and more pieces, or you have less details and fewer pieces to put together. And they wanted the models to look as close to whatever artwork they were going from. So that means more details. And does that mean it's harder for beginners to put them together? Yes. It does, sadly. But that's their sacrifice for having models that uh, are packed with detail. There's some crazy amazing detail on these models. I was painting up Killmonger, and I just can't believe the level of detail, on this guy. It's just crazy. Some of them are a little too tiny for the scale of the model, it feels like. Some of the details where they just sort of get lost because they're so small. But I feel like they might have learned their lesson from the earliest models. And, maybe some of their later ones may not have quite that tiny little elbow Pringle level of crazy detail.
Yeah,
And coming from my perspective as a new person, I would rather learn from a harder model to put together. That way, I can get a real feel for how it's supposed to be, rather than just throwing stuff together.
yeah, because you could actually, if you were to pick up like a privateer press model or, you know, something of that nature, you'd be like, oh, this is easy compared to what you had to do with your Marvel Crisis one. Well, that was kind of weird. But it's definitely, like I said, they're going for detail. We understand that, but some of it I don't understand. What happened to your Iron Man?
Um, Untouched, still needing to be fixed.
What happened though?
The I put the one of the legs. One part was upside down because it fit, but that's not how it's supposed to be. So that entire leg, he's just an amputee.
Yeah, that makes it difficult.
I see. Who's it? Rage Wolf was asking about contrast paints. There is something to say about using the contrast paints and how to use them correctly without screwing them up. One of the things I like is there's certain colors that are really really good, and certain colors that I just don't like. Like I love the black. The black is amazing for painting stuff black, so you don't have to do a lot of highlighting and such. Because I suck at painting. But the black is really good. I love the red. The red on Captain Marvel's sash and stuff. It just comes out so sweet. And see, I got to mess up our red there. I got to fix. Always take the black. Always take the black. But one of the things that I'm learning is coverage with contrast paints, because you think you've got it. I already have the Song of Ice and Fire game. You think you have it completely covered, and then you go back and you're like, crap, I missed this one spot, like I just did on Captain Marvel. I found a little spot in the back where I missed with some red, and so it's kind of annoying. And got to just fix that. I think I'm gonna use this Talisar blue for Captain America, because it's a really bright blue, and it's really, really neat. A little off topic, I really like the Song of Ice and Fire game. It is a butt ton of fun. Miniatures are amazing. The gameplay is really good. The NCUs and all that stuff, the way everything works using the cards, it's a great game. It's just people get turned off because, of course, it's CMON, or Come On Now, and it's based off of a book series.
The Legionnaire says, I like that you don't have to assemble anything.
No, you don't.
That is very true.
You don't have to assemble shit.
No. And they're pretty sturdy, but
Yeah.
not like super flexible. They're not that super bendy kind of plastic. They're not vinyl.
Correct. I think it's an amazing game. I'm saddened that it's not taken off as big as it has. I signed up for one of the tournaments at Adepticon. I just have to paint all my Night Watch before then, which is going to happen after this next weekend coming up. So I've got like a month and a half to paint up 2 Night Watch army lists. So got to work on that. All right, let's get this. Mizzy, you also picked up another, but it was a miniature board game type thing recently. Have you had a chance to play that yet?
No, I haven't.
Why not?
I picked because I work too much.
What was the board game that you picked up?
Gloomhaven.
Oh, I've been wanting to play that.
Yeah, it looks really interesting. I'm more motivated to play with other people, but I originally bought it because I wanted to have a game that I could play by myself because my friends were threatening to move to Florida, and then they changed their minds.
That looks like such a fun game.
Well, I actually looked at it too because I had thought about buying it, and then she bought it, and I was like, well, I don't have to buy it now. Woo! That saved me some money. And I really think it's a good game too. Now, it is a miniature light game. I mean, it's not hardcore, but you could paint the miniatures up and, go for it.
Yeah.
But what is your... you said your first miniature game that you picked up, of course, was Marvel Crisis. But you actually thought about doing War Machine and Hordes at one point, because that's one of my games that I play, and you were interested with that. What did you think about that whenever you got through reading the rules?
I liked that it was fun to watch, but personally, I think it's too much math and too much to keep track of.
Okay. Why do you think that's too much compared to Marvel Crisis?
I guess because I can relate to Marvel and I know the concepts better, that I feel that it would be an easier game to play and keep track of everything.
Okay. What do you think about, because on Marvel Crisis Protocol, the measuring sticks instead of using, tape measures and stuff and stuff like that? What do you think about that?
Yeah. I really like the measuring sticks. That way you can just grab it and go. You don't have to think about, okay, well, here's my ruler and my measuring tape. And okay, this is just simplified.
If you're turning the corner, you can just bend your measuring stick instead of having to, to try and, bend your tape measure around things and stuff, and, not feel like you're cheating because maybe you're, bending it to your advantage, or I don't know. Yeah. But the measuring stick is so much easier. I like that mechanic a lot. I liked it in the Star Wars Legion game too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also there in Star Wars Legion. I think that's where, I'm pretty sure that they told them they had to use that when they were building the game. I wouldn't be surprised. But I like the widget mover and stuff. It makes it so much easier, especially for people that are brand new to the game or brand new to miniature gaming. That could be really, 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 really simple type to move forward. I think that's going to be a good selling point for some people later on. So I'm doing some cleanup where I went a little too far with the red. Type thing. So what makes Marvel feel like it's an easier game for you and makes you feel, that you like it and such, that you can relate to it, I guess is what you called it?
I think it's simply because it is a new game and everybody's learning. I'm not intimidated by how much knowledge other people have about it because they're still learning about it themselves.
I could see that because there's...
Yes.
And so it's like, everybody's a noob. Okay.
Uh-huh. Yes, I totally get that being a noob in other games where somebody else has been playing for 20 years and they've gone through several editions of whatever the game is and they know everything backwards and forward and by heart, and you just feel like there's no way you can catch up with the knowledge. Yeah, I've been there.
Well, there's quite a few
It's one.
games. Go ahead.
I think it's also one of those things where I don't want to ask stupid questions and sound stupid, but I know it's a legit question.
Well,
If that makes sense.
I think
Anybody but me.
for most people are definitely willing to answer, rookie questions. Because most people are interested in helping, you know, other people learn. Every so often you get some asshole who just wants to feel, like they know everything. And,
superior.
is going to try and make you feel bad, but they're few and far between, thank goodness, at least in my experience. So I've had some really helpful people, kind of talk me through, like when I was first learning 40K, when I was first learning Warhammer Fantasy. I'm sure that if I decide to start playing Age of Sigmar, there will be people who will be happy to answer all of my stupid questions because I'll keep comparing it to Warhammer Fantasy, you know,
Yeah.
and I know I'd make 1,000 mistakes.
So, what has been some challenges that you've been seeing when um, going through and looking at the different games? Because there's a ton of a billion, miniature games out there. Damn it, touching things that I shouldn't be touching while I'm painting. And like I says, I know you looked at War Machine and Hordes, and you decided it wasn't because it looked like it was a little bit too complicated of a game for you. Got it.
Too
Understood.
much to start out with.
And I can agree. If you're just recently coming into that game could be a lot to take in because it's got 20 years of development and 20 years of players and so on and so forth. So I can
It's so
understand.
crazy. It doesn't seem like it's been that long for.
Yeah.
You're talking about War Machine.
Yeah,
20 years.
it'll be this year will be their 20th reunion.
I've never played that either, Captain Mizzy. I just never got around to that one.
All right. Nice.
Well, I mean,
Crimson
Go ahead.
Crimson 1919 says, sometimes a noob can show other people how it's played too. I know when I was a noob to War Machine Hordes, there were a couple times where me looking at a rule with fresh eyes made everyone else realize they were doing it wrong for years. Oh my god, that happened to me with Blood
Nice.
Bowl. Yes, absolutely. The new person can read a rule that, if because every group has its meta, and that was the way it was with this Blood Bowl group I played with, and they had their way that they interpreted the block rules, and so for years we played it that way, and then Jim and I joined this other Blood Bowl league at a different game store, and they were like, well, no, that's silly. This is like, and they looked in the rule book and everything, and all of a sudden it was like, well, duh. These guys have been interpreting this rule wrong this whole time. So yes, absolutely the new person always ask to look at the rule book or just tell people, wait a minute, I want to look this rule up. Don't feel shy about telling people, look, I just want to look in the rule book so that I can read this rule and remember it, for myself. Because even though they're telling you what it should do, it's not the same as reading it, and interpreting it, and it maybe sticks into your head a little bit better that way. And there's no reason somebody should, be upset that you're wanting to look in the rule book for yourself and see where it is in the rules in case, you're not playing with that person again. They're not there to tell you the next time you're playing.
Yeah. Everybody has their own different learning styles, and some people are more visual and they can have it explained to them, or some people need that actual imprint rules.
Set captain aside. Setting the captain aside.
But yeah, I definitely have had people be like, well, you're kind of just wasting time here. And I'm like, no. I'm just learning. I did that with a bunch of people playing Zombicide. Zombicide Black Flag. And I had played regular Zombicide for years. I knew that game inside and out. Black Plague is a little different, but some of the rules are the same. And they're like, oh yeah, we're just gonna blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't think that works the way you think it works. And I'm like, here, give me the rules. I just want to look this up real quick so that I can understand it. I, Kathy Wapple, was accused of being a rules lawyer in that game.
You?
I mean, they were friends of mine, and it was like a half in jest, but I've never been accused of that before in my life, like being the one who's keeping track of the rules and reminding everybody else that, no, that's not how you do it, this is how you do it. I was never in that position until that day.
Okay.
I do love you sometimes.
I did not like the gold on the medallion, so I don't think it's going to look good on the chest area. So,
You're just gonna go yellow?
Yeah, the babe blonde.
I mean, you can always just, paint over the yellow too if it doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
or yellow contrast paint over the yellow, or snakebite leather over the yellow.
What do you think I
That
am, a
might be
painter or something, Kathy? Jeez.
Sometimes.
I think I know how to paint. I barely know how to put it on a brush.
I only say that because I recently was using the snakebite leather. It is one of the 2 contrast paints that I have in front of me. Also, I learned how to make original, old school GW snakebite leather by adding Reaper Clear Yellow to my contrast snakebite leather, in case anybody else cares, because that was one of my favorite colors of Games Workshop paint, the snakebite leather, back in the day. I think, and just mixing a little bit of the yellow with that, well, actually mixing a little bit of the contrast snakebite leather with my yellow is closer. Although I did add a little too much contrast to it, so I got a really nice dark brown color out of that, where I was able to do non-metallic gold with a darker mid-tone color, if anyone cares.
You're the painter, not me. I just do it because it makes it a whole lot easier while we podcast. I need to boom white. I need to do a overcoat of white on that red where I want to paint the yellow, because it's just not going to show up very well.
Mm-hmm.
Type thing. So, Mizzy, have you gone to any tournaments or watched any tournaments or anything like that?
Well, I went to Warfare Weekend, so I kind of saw different tournaments there. And then I went to War Machine Homecoming, and then got to watch some people play War Machine Hordes there. But otherwise, not really.
What do you think about tournament play?
It's really serious. I think if I'm going to play a game, then I want to do it just for fun.
That's kind of how I feel. I've only played in a couple tournaments. And that was a long, long time ago.
In a galaxy far, far away?
I definitely am a casual player, for sure.
So you think you're going to be a casual player, Mizzy?
Probably, yeah.
So whenever I bring my stuff over and I noob stomp you, you're not going to be mad at me?
No.
Okay.
She might punch you, but she won't be mad at you.
Oh, she'll punch me.
I've got a pretty good kidney punching.
Excellent. When in doubt, just slam your fist down on the table, making all the models jump up and tip over. It's almost like a, table flip, but not quite.
Have all of the dramatics. Cannon blast and fire, everything.
I accidentally did that once in a Blood Bowl game. It was totally not intentional. But there I was, it was my turn. All my guys were lined up. It was the kickoff had happened, and it was the first guy on my turn. So you have 11 guys on your team on the board, assuming no one's knocked out. So they're all there. They're in position, and I go to throw a block with my first guy.
Oh my.
It's a 3-die block, my favor. For anybody who's ever played Blood Bowl, that's really good chances for me. That's a very good chance.
3-die block is pretty good.
Yeah. So I roll the dice. I get triple skulls, which means if you roll a skull, your own guy falls over. And it's the end of your turn. So I rolled triple skulls. Of all the results I could have got on the other faces of the dice, that was not so likely. It's like rolling triple ones on a 6-sider. But I have a reroll. So I use my reroll. I roll it again. Triple skulls. My guy is knocked out. My turn is over. I slap my hand down on the table. It's more flexible than I thought it would be. All the guys jump up off the board, tip over. It was not my proudest moment. I can laugh about it now, but yeah, I kind of ruined that entire game. So.
What did your opponent say?
He was taken aback, and everyone was afraid of me after that. Not my intention.
I want to thank, before we go anywhere, I want to thank Cynthium for subscribing and following. We appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthium. Hopefully you'll come and see me paint on Tuesday afternoon as I paint plaid. Tuesday through Friday is when I paint minis from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Central U.S. time.
And she's a real painter. I'm just on here because I suck.
He has fun painting, and that's what matters.
I wouldn't call this fun.
Wait, you're not having fun painting?
I gotta get them done for Adepticon.
Yeah, I have stuff to get done for Adepticon too, but I'm not crying.
I'm not crying, I'm bitching. There's a difference. Yeah.
So, have you painted some of your models yet, Captain Mizzy? Did you say you had painted anything yet?
Yeah, I've got Hulk mostly painted. There's a few spots that I need to touch up and then get some finishing details on, but otherwise he's basically done. And then I did a little bit on Red Skull, and I got Black Widow started.
Okay.
And she also, I introduced her to the greatest, color washes and everything the world has ever known. She hadn't picked up Null Oil yet, or Agrath Earthshade, so she's going to be experimenting with those pretty soon.
I have both of those, but I almost never use them, so it's not a make or break. It's not a necessity.
No, but for someone that's new, learning how to use the washes and stuff, those are very much oh crap, that changes the way until she can learn. She learns to do, the highlighting and all the other stuff. Because the Null Oil, that thing is just Ball's
It
good.
can be helpful. It's not essential, but it can be helpful, that's for sure. There's a million different ways that a person can approach painting a model. So, you know, the way that I just don't use the washes as often. That's all. Crimson goes, it's not a necessity when you're good at painting. I don't know. I mean, I was mixing contrast painting with my yellow the other day, so those are good
Why
too.
this is not? I have no clue why this camera is not focusing. I even fixed it so it would focus better. I blame Rainer.
It does.
I don't know why. I'm just going to blame Rainer on that. Can I blame Rainer?
Rogue Wolf says Army painter washes are pretty good also. Yeah, I have the Quick Shade Strong Tone and the Quick Shade Purple Tone here, and I actually use those more than I use most of the GW ones, but I also absolutely love the Citadel Cassandora Yellow shade wash. Cassandora Yellow is an awesome wash. If you're painting over yellow, or if you want to tint a white surface or an off-white surface yellow, that's fantastic.
Ugh. Okay, so I got most of her done. I got to do a little bit of detail on her face. I'll let that sit to the side because I want to get over here to this because I have my white over here. And I don't have my wet palette. Shame on me. But I have some white out. So I'm going to take advantage of this white. I need some wetness. Kathy, you're supposed to remind me to use my wet palette and not just put stuff out. Isn't that like your
I'm
job?
supposed to remind you to use your wet palette?
Yeah, I think that's your job.
Oh, I'll
How
just
many
make a
jobs
note of
does
that.
she have?
I'll make a note of that here.
Remind Gonzo to use wet palette. Kathy has a lot of hats. She keeps me in check. Like, hey.
I never wear my hats, though.
She'll be like, Gonzo, you need to do this. I'm like, what? Do what? She's like, upload all the episodes. I'm like, damn it, I don't want to upload the episodes.
I thought that was John's hat.
No, John just yells at me. John just yells at me. He's like, what the hell? Why are you doing that? I'm like, because I can.
Crimson 1919 says, my worry is that new painters will do the traditional base coat, wash, dry brush technique on something like a skeleton and think it's great, but when they try to do that on a yellow Space Marine over black primer, that can make them want to rage quit painting.
You know what? He is not wrong.
That is very true. There are techniques that will work for something and will not work for another thing. They won't work for everything, and that's every technique. Like, I will dry brush. There are things I will dry brush. If there's a huge amount of texture on something like hair, I will absolutely dry brush that. All my zenithal highlighting, because I don't use an airbrush, I just brush on the Stynylrez primer, even though it's airbrush primer. I just use a brush, and I do a dry brush zenithal highlighting over it. And that hits all the details, and that's before I start adding color. So there's always a place for dry brushing. But yeah, hair, fur, all kinds of things that have a lot of high texture, like bones on a skeleton. It works fantastic for that. But places where you have broad, flat surfaces, it tends not to work as well. And then you see a lot of brush strokes in those areas too of your dry brush. So yeah, there are techniques that work better for certain areas. There's places where I will use a wash. There's places where, like I said, I'll use a dry brush. There's places where I'm going to wet blend instead of doing my usual sort of glaze. And there's other places where that glaze from opaque to transparent works better. There's other places where it doesn't work at all. So, there's no one technique that I use. I don't see why only one technique would work for, everybody else either.
No, I
Blue
mean,
Dragon says, for a mini painter that wants to start using an airbrush, what would be an airbrush you recommend? I have not used an airbrush. That's why I brush on my Stynylrez with just a brush. I'm sorry. I
I'm going to
cannot
go ahead
answer
and go
that.
with Crimson. And the Badger Patriot 105 is the greatest starter airbrush. That's the one I got to start off in learning. And that's the one I use for just priming now. When I'm priming a model and I'm not doing a rattle can or whatever, or not doing a massa group. I use that. And then I've graduated to the Sotar 2020, I think is what it is. Has my other one for fine detail work and just basic work. But and it's not the Badger Patriot is not expensive. So so you mess it up or you have to buy a new needle or whatever, you don't feel so bad messing it up, type thing. Ah, damn it. So it's not that big of a deal. So definitely the Patriot 105. It's a very good starter brush.
Quick, rinse it off. Rinse it off with your clean water.
And so, I'll have to get some black in there.
Rogue Wolf Ghost Feathers. And when I first read that, I thought he was just cursing me. And then I was like, maybe he means that feathers are good to do dry brush on, which I would agree with.
Yes.
It just took me a minute to get there. He also says, I started with a Master's airbrush, which is now my primer brush, and uses a Badger 105 now. I think, John, you got the Master's one, too.
Yeah, I use the Badger, and they've actually got a pretty good deal where you get the Patriot 105 and an air compressor for a really good amount. A really cheap amount, so it's not like you're spending an arm and a leg for something, and that's what it comes down to is the cost, because eventually you may decide that you're not going to use airbrushing and you're just going to use back to rattle can. But I'll tell you, airbrushing yellow is a godsend, especially if you're doing a large area. And you're just going to cover, like I have this Pikachu, that 3D Pikachu that I printed. And I'm going to paint him, of course, yellow. And I'm just going to airbrush the shit out of him. It'll just be super easy and then do fine details with a brush. But for airbrush, definitely going to put the yellow on him with a airbrush. So, 100%. That's a good one to get started with.
Captain Mizzy. I was just going to read your thing like I always do in the chat, but I'm like, you're right here.
But I'm right here.
You can talk about it.
What? What are you going to say?
So what I was saying is that Crimson pointed out about how beginners should do the different techniques and whatnot. I think exploring the different techniques is half the fun. If I'm going to do it, then I want to do it right.
I would have to agree with that. I think that's one of the things I have fun with, is not only experimenting with different techniques, but also experimenting with different paints and the different properties that different paints have, and how they
different
mix
color
together.
combinations. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm a paint mixer. I mean, when I was in high school art, I liked to mix paint. I would have, because in high school art class, you have, you pick a picture out of a magazine and you paint it, on your canvas, whatever. But matching the colors was really one of the most fun things for me, was just the challenge of seeing if I could match the colors in the photo, with what I was painting. And that's kind of translated to painting miniatures. I'm like, well, I want to get this sort of warm, orangey, rich sort of red instead of the dull, blue red that sort of has, it has a little bit of black pigment in it because it just lacks vibrancy.
It doesn't have that feel, yeah.
Yeah.
That's something that I learned in my color theory class during my design school is mix your paints because just out of the tube it's boring.
Yes, that's how I feel about a lot of paints. It's funny because there's so many different paints with miniature paints because they want you to be able to just squeeze your paint out onto the palette and be able to paint and take the work of mixing paints away from you so that you don't have to think about that part of it. But for me, that part of it is what makes it fun. So I will continue to do that. And when people ask me, what color did you paint this? I cannot say I used
the
Games Workshop Plus Red, which they don't make anymore. But all I can do is say, it's a warm red orange, and you can translate that into whatever paint line that you want, really. But so how did the Hulk go? You said you have him almost done. What do you have remaining to do on him? I want to know.
Different highlights. I and then by his belt, I missed a spot, so I got to go over that with green, and then finish up his pants a little bit. Like I've got the basic purple on there, but I wanted to do more
plaid.
I'll leave the plaid to you.
Now I want a Hulk. Where's my Hulk?
Hulk and plaid pants. That would be amazing.
Oh God, I want Hulk.
Well, lean over to Jim and tell him to get it for you.
That's one of the ones that I don't have. I don't have Hulk or Doc.
Get the Hulk.
Yeah, I need to do that. Oh, Rogue Wolf says, which is why I keep a watercolor sketchbook, so I can keep track of the paint combos I use. I keep intending to do that, and I've tried it on several occasions, trying to keep track of my paint recipes. In fact, I have one on a piece of paper that you probably won't be able to see because I'm sure it'll all,
wash out.
Yeah. So this is my paint recipe that's just on a piece of paper that's just lying on the floor behind me.
I know a lot of people. One of our guys, David, that does a lot of painting, and he actually does a lot of commission work, and he's done some for me. He takes a notebook, and so whatever he starts working with, he takes and put a smudge of that paint and writes it down in the notebook, so he knows, like, oh, Gonzo's, Fire Warriors are blah, 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 blah. He's got that little sketchbook of all the paints he used and what section he has. So he keeps it detailed,
I know. That is such a good idea, too. I would encourage people to do that, and I keep thinking that I want to do that, and then I start, and I'll do like 2 things in it, and then I won't do anymore, and it'll get buried and lost, much like that dusty piece of paper that was on the floor behind me. Yeah, best plans. That doesn't work for me, but keeping a paint... Uh-oh.
What happened?
Let me try and refresh my thing.
I don't see anything wrong.
That was just me. Apparently that was just me having a hiccup here. I had to refresh, so... Sorry, guys.
I'm like, what?
No, keeping a paint journal is a fantastic idea, and I would encourage people to do that. I just can't seem to, apparently. I've tried.
Best plans are always forged with good intentions.
Mm-hmm. Hey, it's time for the media section, my friends.
Hold on a second. Hold on. I'm almost done with like this.
So for we'll wait for Gunn to finish painting his
The teeth.
teeth, which should take like a half an hour. So the media section, for those that don't know, is the last half hour of our podcast, and that is where we talk about movies and TV shows that we've recently watched, and books that we've read, and music that we have recently discovered and would wish to share with everybody else. And that's our media section. So that starts at 8, which is now. Or after Gonzo finishes the teeth on Venom. Your Venom's looking really good. That was a huge leap from the beginning of the show.
Yep.
He's practically done.
Yeah, he's pretty much done. I got to do some touch up and some a little bit more white on him because I got some smudges and put some black in between the legs and such. But for the most part, a good solid base is done on him. All right.
He looks like Venom.
He looks like a Venom. I can't wait till Carnage comes out, though. Oh, that'd be so cool. And that'll be really good use for this, the Blood Angels Red for him. That'll be really, really good. Okay. Let's see.
Oh,
what do
wait.
What?
Before we start, infomercials says, brand new mini painter here. Any tips for highlighting? I can base and shade well enough for my own taste, but I have trouble adding that extra pop with highlights after washing. I dry brush when the model has enough texture, but otherwise I don't know how to go about highlighting. Highlighting is something that does take practice and experimentation. That's something we all struggle with when we're first starting out, and we would like there to be more contrast between our lights and our darks on the model. So I don't know that I can help with just trying to describe it. I do have a whole bunch of VODs that are archived here in case you feel like, watching that process happen, even if sometimes it's easier when you can just see what somebody's doing. So if I was painting right now, I could answer this question by just demonstrating it. But words are sometimes elusive, which is what you like to hear in a podcast, that words are elusive. Edge highlighting, Crimson says. Edge highlighting is great for inorganic material, like armor. Sometimes is good for fabric folds too, if you have really high fabric folds, but also dry brushing works well for organic material like that has a lot of folds in the fabric. But as far as just kind of blending your lightest color into your sort of mid-tones, I guess what you want is you want a mid-tone color, you want a dark color, and then you want your highlight color, and you don't want your highlight color to be white. And you don't want to just mix, a mid-tone color with white to get your lightest highlight all the time. Sometimes you just want to pick some other off-white color that you have. Like, I usually will turn to either a flesh tone color. Well, it's Reaper Maiden Flesh is what it's called. It's sort of a light peachy off-white. And Vallejo makes one called Verdigris, which to me is lighter than actual Verdigris, but it's like an off-white greenish color. And those are my go-tos for mixing with a color to do highlights. Crimson says, with dry brushing, go very little paint and use dollar store makeup brushes. So it sounds like they already kind of know how to do the dry brushing part of it. Yeah. Maiden Flesh, they call it something else now. It's one of their newer paints. And I don't know if Jim has it. He was just showing it to me. He's like, I heard you mention Maiden Flesh the other day, and here's what it is here, because he has the new color. It's the same color as Maiden Flesh, but I don't know if it's still called Maiden Flesh. Yeah, the Bones paints. So they just switched over those colors to their Bones paints. So yeah. So that's now what he uses, and I'm still working with my old bottle of Maiden Flesh. But yeah, the highlights, it just takes practice. And I was gonna say not adding straight up white. Like if you're painting red and you just add white to it as a highlight, it's going to look pink. So I would add maybe a little bit of yellow to it. Or if you're gonna add some white to it, also add a little yellow to it. Add some yellow and white to it. Otherwise, it's just gonna look pink.
Okay, Kathy, how many things do you have to talk about?
None.
None?
None.
Big surprise. Big surprise. Mizzy, how many things you got to talk about?
I'm gonna go with the one, but you also have that one on your list.
We have two, because I didn't get to do it last week and we held off on it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Gun Mage
is asking if you're going to LVO. Sadly, I don't think any of us are making it to LVO.
No. The next big con that all three of us are going to go to is Adepticon.
By all three of us, he means he, I, and Captain Mizzy, not John O. Spencer. I wish John would be at Adepticon, but he sadly cannot make it.
Yeah. But we're going to be there, so you can see us there. I'll be playing around. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but 2 of them are just because new seasons. So I guess I'll start off. A new season on Netflix came out of Sex Education. I haven't had a chance to watch the new season, but I do love the series Sex Education. If anybody's never seen it before, it is the story of a kid. His mom is a sex therapist, and he gets into the sex therapy business with his kids in school. And so the kids in school get into asking him for sex therapy, and it's actually pretty damn funny and pretty good.
So this is a kid at school who becomes a sex therapist for his
school
friends?
Yes.
Okay.
And Gillian Anderson is the sex therapist, aka his mom. She always gives him hells like, did you masturbate today? Because, masturbation is a perfectly fine thing to do as a young teenage male. And just razzes the shit out of him. And he's like, no, Mom. And, he would actually set up, I think one of the scenes since season 1, he, sets up his room he squirts some lotion around and throws some tissues. And, and you're just like, holy crap.
So his mom thinks he's normal?
Yes. And she's like, I know what you're doing. You're trying to, whatever. And so season 2 has started. Haven't had a chance to watch it. I'll probably watch it tomorrow. Because I got a lot of miniature stuff to do. I got to put a lot of cork on bases. So I'll probably be doing that. And
he's corking his bases.
Corking my bases. And what this season is about, his mom actually becomes a therapist at his school. And a sex therapist at the school. So it's gonna be kind of interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. Season 1 was really good. I think I maybe gave it 1 space herpes. For the people that are new, we rate our series from 0 to 5. 0 being the best, 5 being the worst.
Because you really don't want to have space herpes.
A 0 would be like Casablanca, and a 5 would be Atlantic Rim type thing, or Cats.
Well, yeah, Cats is now. I feel like John. I can't speak for John fully, but I feel like he might watch Atlantic Rim instead of Cats because giant robots.
Yeah. Yes, the space herpes from Ice Pirates. Yes.
Pirates. Because we're dorks.
Because we're dorks. Which, by the way, John's episode of Cats will be coming out tomorrow for free.
For those that don't know, what is John's episode?
Movie Emergency. It's where he's talking about cats We always give that to, of course, our patron subscribers first, and it's now gone for free. So that will be going live on our podcast streams. So
John is fantastic at reviewing movies.
he's amazing at reviewing stuff. Another show that's coming out shortly is Sabrina, the new chapter of Sabrina, which I'm really looking forward to. Season 2, Chapter 2 was okay. I'm looking forward to Season 3. I hope it gets, pretty raw and real, because it can get that way sometimes. So I'm looking forward to it. But my first review, I did a rewatch because Mizzy has not seen Bright. And as we know, there is a Bright Part 2 coming out.
Oh, that's right.
I'm
excited for that.
Yeah. We're not sure. We don't have much detail on it, but there is going to be a Part 2 or Season 2 or whatever you want to call it, Bright 2. We don't know much
Yeah,
details.
because it's really a movie instead of a TV series. But yeah, is it bad? It's cheesy as hell.
Yeah.
But it's like an adventure of Shadowrun.
Yes.
It's so cool, though.
Yeah, it's urban
It's
fantasy.
cheesy and dorky, but it's so cool.
And yeah, I loved it, and I am so looking forward to another part to that. I feel like it should be a TV series. That's what it feels like. The universe that it's in is, it could be so big and so full of, detail.
Yeah, you could easily make that into a TV show. Not even use the same characters. Like, hey, we're in New York now, or New Orleans, or whatever, and you could have a good Bright TV series. It shouldn't be any problem. I mean, it wouldn't be anything.
I
to
love
do it.
Will Smith, but a show set in that world doesn't require it to have Will Smith.
Not at all. And you could actually set it with whatever the magic bureau or whatever it is. You could follow the elf and a human going and solving, and finding magic stuff, and that would be perfect. If anybody doesn't know, if you haven't seen Bright, if you like modern fantasy, this perfect movie. Yeah, it is Will Smith, so it does have the cheesy Will Smith lines. It has a great soundtrack. I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was the first time Mizzy has watched it, so Mizzy, why don't you tell us what you think about it?
I really liked it. I liked the different races, cultures that they set up. I liked how the orcs were the quote unquote bad guys, but then the one redeemed himself or whatever. Definitely would watch again. Definitely want to watch the second one when it comes out.
So how many space herpes would you give it?
I wouldn't call it perfect, but 1.5 probably.
Okay. That's not bad. I mean, it does have its flaws and a little cheesiness in it, but overall, it's a good show. Anything that rates, like 3 and up is a decent chance to watch that you'll have a good time with it. So it ranks high on the watchability. It was great to rewatch. Because I didn't see anything new or interesting, but it was still pretty dang cool.
I'm gonna have to rewatch that too.
Yeah, I mean, so we got the new season of it coming out, so have that. The next thing I watched the Dracula series. It is a 3-part TV series, and I have to say that you can't really call it a TV series, in my opinion.
A mini-series?
You've got to call it a mini-series, and maybe that's what they call it. But each episode, and it's only 3 episodes, is like an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes long. So each episode is pretty much its own movie. The first one turned out really good. It was very old school Dracula, back, a long time ago with nuns, and the nun is really cool, and, there's all this cool Dracula stuff going on. Not gonna spoil anything, so nobody has to worry about it. But it was really good. Very, very nice looking show. Sets and everything were done really well. Costuming was done really well. Dracula played a really good part. And I thoroughly enjoyed episode 1. Episode 2 came out, and about halfway through it, it changes the entire thing of what Dracula is. And I can't say what it is because it does spoil kind of the shock with it, but it changes the narrative of how the story goes.
Is he a Time Lord?
I can't spoil that, Kathy. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything, but you have to watch it. It is worth. Oh, I will say this: it is worth a watch, because at the very end of it, they put a new twist on Dracula, and I thought that was interesting. Of why Dracula was the way he is. There's a twist on why he can't be in sunlight, why he's afraid of the cross, stuff like that, which I thought was really interesting. But there is a possibility of a new season coming out of it. The creators decided not to say no. Although there is an end to it, so you could definitely go, okay, I can watch this and be good and satisfied and be done. But you could see where they could come back with another episode, another series. Overall, I'm reaching like about a 3 space herpes. It's interesting enough, especially the first 1.5 episodes is really good. Very good Dracula series. When you get past this one part in episode 2, and you'll know it immediately, you're just like, what? Huh? What? Okay. And then it kind of goes off rails, and then you start picking it back up, and then you're like, okay, I'm getting into this, and then it ends. But overall, like I said, about 3 space herpes. Don't have a big issue with it. I had to digest it a bit when I got done watching it and thinking about it, especially the ending. And I'm okay with the ending, but the switch in the middle just kind of throws you off a bit, type thing. So, not that big of a deal. If you like Dracula, you'll like it. If you like twists, you'll like it. But it kind of reaches into that almost not so good type thing. But it was okay. Don't have a problem with it. There was something else that was coming out that I wanted to talk about, but I can't remember. I didn't write it down. Oh, I know what it was.
What?
I don't know what it was. Watchmen, the HBO TV series, which I thoroughly loved. I loved the shit out of it. Amazing music. Trent Reznor does an amazing job when he does stuff like this. He's an amazing guy for soundtracks for movies and such.
Trent Reznor is just amazing.
Yeah, it is. But he did really good on this series. They came out with the announcement that the creator of the show decided he's not going to write for season 2. And so HBO said then, yeah, it's done then. We're not going to hire someone else to write season 2 because it was perfect the way it was.
Rogue Wolf waiting on the second season of Altered Carbon. You're not alone, my friend.
Yeah, you're not alone on that one.
Loved that show.
Yeah, I can't wait for Altered Carbon. Altered Carbon was... I can't wait for season 2. I really wish Abuela comes back. Because that was one of the best parts of that series. And in the same body. But the other one. I thought it was interesting that HBO said, okay, since the original creator is not going to write it, we're done. They decided not to go for the fast bucks and hire someone else to do it, which is interesting. And I'm like, okay, I get that. I'm going to miss it because I really wanted to see what else was going to go with the series, but I'm okay with what happened. An Altered Carbon RPG. Ooh, Trash Aroma, you got me interested. Altered Carbon, if you haven't watched Altered Carbon, Mizzy, have you watched Altered Carbon?
No.
Put that on your
Netflix.
list. Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Is it Netflix?
Yeah, it's Netflix.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix.
Okay.
Put it on your queue. Altered Carbon
Let me add it
is...
to never-ending list of things to watch.
Of course. That's all
sci-fi.
Netflix. Science fiction show where people technically never die. They back up their consciousness into other bodies, and people can shift. into different bodies. There's androids, AI, advanced tech, you name it. Really good show. I loved it. It was one of my favorite ones of all time. Can't wait for the next season of that. Didn't know they were doing an RPG, so thanks a lot, Trashorma. I'm a huge RPG fan, and I collect RPG books, so I will
Oh my
definitely pick it
god,
up.
what?
No, not
Oh.
me.
None of us knew this about you.
Yeah, I
Well,
collect them like
technically,
crazy.
there are some new people to the show tonight, so maybe they didn't know that about you. He's a giant geek, folks, in case you didn't realize it. Not like the rest of us.
No, not like the rest of us. But they, I'm glad they're making an RPG that sounds great. I mean, it could be fit right. I mean, you don't have to play off the same story. You could do anything different. There's a ton of the world to deal with, so that's probably gonna be pretty good. I ain't got a problem with that. Just depending on what the system is. As long as it's not Shadowrun, I'm okay with it. I don't want to roll 75 D6s to walk down the street.
I don't mind Shadowrun, though.
I almost picked up the new edition because I almost saw it, and I thought the new edition was sitting there. I was like, "Ooh, I got a little bit of money. I can pick this up," and it wasn't. It was like a source book, and I was like, "Okay, don't have to worry about it." Our last one that I have is something Mizzy and I watched, and it's 10 episodes. The episodes are only about 23 minutes apiece, and what is it? Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beasts. Yeah. For those who don't know, I am a special ed teacher, and on Fridays, my kids, if they earn it, will watch a TV show. And so I'm always trying to find cool TV shows. Like we are done with How to Train Your Dragon TV show. We're done with Dragon Prince. We're done with all the shows that we have on our list. Green Eggs and Ham, the TV show on Netflix. And so I was trying to find something new, and I saw this commercial and the picture for this series called Kipo and the Age of the Wonder Beasts. And I'm like, ooh, I like the animation look to it. It had kind of cool looking colors and everything. And I always have to preview everything I'm going to show my kids so nothing can come up and nothing's going to, shock them or whatever. And so we watched all 10 episodes. This show is pretty freaking cool. The story is about Earth, and Earth has pretty much been decimated, and now it's a post-apocalyptic. But it's post-apocalyptic where mutants have taken over. So, mutant giant frogs that are humanoid. If anyone knows what the RPG is, Mutant Zero. It's kind of like that. Birds that are giant and big, giant, mega bunnies. And humans either A, live underground, sheltered away from everybody, or they live on the surface and they're survivors and, kind of feral. And the story is about a girl that gets forced out of her underground shelter and has to survive on the top world. It is very lighthearted. It is very whimsical. It is silly beyond belief. One of the creatures is a 6-legged, 4-eyed pig, which is kind of their mascot. And
6-legged, 4-eyed pig. I want the stuffed animal.
Yes.
There is a world and there is a history, so it's not just it's not episodic. There is a goal, and every episode builds on each other. There's a group of frogs that wear business suits and ties and have a Addams Family mustache. What's his name? What's the Addams Family? What's
Gomez.
Gomez's Addams mustache, and they all wear it. And they have a thing that, your tie has to be straight. They're very, they freak out if their suit is messed up and dirty and all this other stuff. And so it very much is hilarious. Wolves are actually the scientists of the world, pretty much. They love science. And so there's an episode where the wolves describe the beginning of the universe to current time in a song and dance routine. The characters are Kibo. You have to help me remember the names, which is the girl that came from the underground.
Wolf.
Wolf, which is a feral girl that wears a wolf hide and has a stick with some demon death pincer
Death
thing on it.
Scorpion thing.
Yeah. That if she stabs you with it, you die. You have one guy, what's the name? Benson.
And Dave.
And Dave is an insect that goes from pupa to death on a daily basis and always at the wrong time. So he'll start out as like a pupa and then become a kid and then go to a teenage insect, and the teenage insect has zits on his face. Then goes to a very big, strong insect with a lot of muscles, and then we'll go to an old man insect and do the whole routine over again throughout each episode.
So he's like a mayfly.
And just constantly. There are many times he starts out and just keeps on going to this.
And always at the wrong time.
Correct. Always at the wrong time. The show is hilarious. It is stupid hilarious. Mandu, which is of course the pig. Mandu the pig. Mandu is an edible thing that the people that live underground eat. So she named the pig after something they eat. It is, if you have young kids, it is great. If you like silly, quirky TV shows, go watch it.
If you enjoy cute things, yes.
Yes. Like some of the creatures, the mutants are actually really, really, really big. And so they're monstrous. And like they have monster corgis and monster, what is it?
They've got the mega bunnies and the mega dogs, and then they've got the timber cats.
Timber cats, which are
Minnesotans. So cool. They're Minnesotans.
They're lumberjack cats with axes, and their leader has an axe that is a guitar.
They're all dressed like my dad.
All flannel shirts. They all look like young lumberjacks. And so it is very off the wall. Like there's a bug insect that speaks in disco techno music.
Yeah, the bees.
Yeah, the bees are like techno dance music type light up, so it's really weird. There's just a ton. There's a ton
really does
to it.
Sound like fun. Oh my god! I feel like I need to watch this.
It is really fun. It's a really fun show. And you know what's interesting is, okay, now my kids are third and fourth graders, so of course I always preview everything. A Kilted Viking. And I thought it was interesting that more and more shows, like if you've watched Dragon Prince, you know that in Dragon Prince, non-hetero relationships are pretty prevalent in there. Lesbian and gay and so on and so forth. And it's not thrown in your face and it's not shoved. It's just like, yeah, we're, wife and wife. And it's just there. And so it's very, like, it's there and it's going to be there. This show has a scene in there where one of the characters is gay. And the other character comes up to him and says, hey, I really like you. And he's like, oh, sorry, I'm gay. And you're just like, and it's just played off really well. And it's, like I said, it's not thrown in your face. It's not, shoved down your throat. It's just like, yeah, I'm that. And she's like, oh, okay. And then just continue on. So I thought it was really interesting that was in there, but it wasn't the whole plot point. It wasn't, flagged type thing.
It wasn't a big deal.
Yes.
So before we go, I have one thing actually that I would like to mention.
I'm sorry, Kathy, we're out of time. I'm going to give everybody, let's give a rating. Mizzy, what do you give Kibo's rating before we go to let Kathy talk with hers?
Most people, I'd probably give it a 1, but honestly, for what it is, I think it's perfect.
I give it like a half to a 1. Most people probably consider it a 1. I give it a half. There's just a little bit in there, but it was a great show. Go watch it, guys. It's amazing. All right, Kathy, I'm sorry. You can go ahead and do yours now. For More Than Dice, no.
So there's this podcast that I've been listening to called Willow, and it's a story podcast. I would draw parallels with Welcome to Night Vale because I used to really like that. I used to listen to that one all the time. This one takes place in a town that straddles Quebec and Vermont. So it's kind of in Canada, it's kind of in the US, and the border runs like right through this town. And there's like 9 or 10 episodes now. I mean, it's new, but I absolutely love it. And it can be dark. It's got a little bit of a supernatural vibe to it. And I would highly recommend it if you like a fun, meaty story. Also, it has cooking in it, baking. So that the whole thing is centered around this bakery, and the main character is a baker. And then also with this whole sort of dark, sort of supernatural sort of vibe that's going on throughout in this town, I definitely recommend it. And I'm going to post a link to it in the chat, so people can find it.
Cannot watch this. So I'm watch reruns of the Weather Channel from August 15, 2013 on repeat.
Can't watch what show?
Anything. So for everybody here,
fortunately, Willow is a podcast, so you don't have to watch it. You just listen to it.
For everybody here that's new, we appreciate you coming in and showing up and listening to us. We stream every Sunday with our podcast episode and our pre-ramble. Kathy streams on Tuesday through Friday, 3 to 5, and hangs out there. She's amazing to watch. She is the actual painter of our podcast, not me. You can learn a lot from watching her. She's amazing, and she's a lot of fun to listen to and hang out with. So 3 to 5 Central Time, by the way. We appreciate y'all coming out. Thanks a lot. For More Than Dice, I'm Gonzo.
I'm Kathy.
I'm Captain Me.
Good night, everyone. We will be sending y'all off to Epic Duck Studios when we're done.
Yay! We love Epic Duck Studios. He does amazing work.
He's
a miniature painter as well.
We will be rating Epic Duck.
Yay! Also, hey, One Fast Make. I saw you sneak in here. Sorry it's at the end of the show. No one can see me dancing. That's fine.